evening. If you go down history, it is replete with examples of trained doctors, some very highly qualified, who have ended up prescribing terror. The most famous of them all has been Ayman al-Zawahiri, the second in command of Osama bin Laden, who took over the reins of the Al-Qaeda after Osama was killed. The Egypt-born doctor served as a surgeon in the Egyptian army. Then he set up his own clinic in Cairo. This before giving it all up to propagate radical Islam. Post 9/11, he was America's most wanted and was finally taken down in 2022 in an American drone strike. Was al-Zawahiri the inspiration for the doctors of death who wrote the prescription for Delhi's Red Fort blast? Well, we don't know the answer to that yet, but what we know is that 5 doctors, 3 of them from Kashmir, were on the Fidayeen front line. Dr. Umar, trained in Kashmir, thrown out of the Anantnag government hospital and then finally working in the Al-Falha University in Faridabad. Well, he's now believed to be the Fidayeen bomber who detonated his I-20 at the crowded Red Fort area. Sources say he panicked after his associates were arrested in anti-terror raids in the last 15 days and then decided to blow himself up to complete his team's mission. Now, the government of India is yet to come out and say that this was a terror strike. But the Home Minister has not ruled it out either. He says anyone who has been involved in the blast will be ultimately hunted down. The Prime Minister said as much as he landed in Bhutan.
इस घटना की जांच में जुटी सभी एजेंसियों के साथ, सभी महत्वपूर्ण लोगों के साथ संपर्क में था, विचार विमर्श चलता था। हमारी एजेंसियां इस षड्यंत्र की तह तक जाएगी। इसके पीछे के षड्यंत्रकारियों को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। All those responsible will be brought to justice.
A lot has happened through the day today. Let's quickly recap that for you. These are the top 7 developments in the case at 7 o'clock. First things first, Dr. Umar Nabi has been identified now as the suspected suicide bomber. His father has been picked up by the Jammu and Kashmir police. His mother has been taken for a DNA test. Then, very importantly, the second big development, the NIA has now officially taken over the Delhi blast case from the Delhi police. The third big development, 3 out of 8 people who are currently detained/arrested in the case are doctors. 2 doctors are from Jammu and Kashmir. 1 doctor who has been detained is from Lucknow. We'll get you more details on the faces of terror in just a bit. Meanwhile, the Delhi police has also submitted a preliminary report to the MHA. In fact, there was a high-level meeting that happened at the MHA headed by Home Minister Amit Shah. Some 52 plus people have now been questioned by the police from the Al-Falha University. 6 people from the university have also been detained. Dr. Shaheen Shahid, the lady jihadi, as she is being called, arrested in the case. Well, now her role has been established. It now appears that she was recruited by the jaish to recruit and indoctrinate women from colleges across India. And lastly, we are now being told that the I-20 car in which the blast took place, this car that allegedly was being driven by Dr. Umar, it was resold at least 7 times. Now, a probe led the police to Dr. Muzammil Ahmed in Faridabad. Let me tell you this. It actually began in Srinagar. It began when suddenly on 19th of October, there were posters supporting the jaish that appeared in Srinagar. The Jammu and Kashmir police started probing that matter. That probe led the police to Dr. Muzammil Ahmed in Faridabad. Stunningly, the doctor from Pulwama, who taught MBBS students at the Al-Falha University, had stored 358 kgs of explosives at his residence, along with 20 timers, a walkie-talkie set, and an AK-47. He was arrested, and it was his arrest that led the Jammu and Kashmir police to an unexpected terror module. Highly radicalized doctors who were gathering ammunition to burn down India. Dr. Muzammil, in his interrogation, named another doctor, Dr. Adil Rader, who again has roots in Kashmir and again was working at the Al-Falha University in Faridabad. An AK-47 was found in his locker, in his old locker at the Government Medical College in Anantnag. Question is, when he had already left the Anantnag Medical College, how did he still have a locker there? Then came a third doctor, a doctor from Pulwama, a surgeon working in a hospital in Delhi who had close links with the suicide bomber, the alleged suicide bomber, Dr. Umar. Dr. Sajjad Malla has now been detained and is being questioned by agencies, this just a day after his wedding. Last but not the least, the lady jihadi of Faridabad's module, Dr. Shaheen Said. She's originally from Lucknow. Once again, she was working at the Al-Falha University. Dr. Shaheen was radicalized in a Jaish-e-Mohammed drive to set up a women's brigade in India. Now, according to sources, Dr. Shaheen was recruited by Masood Azhar's sister to oversee the recruitment of women for the Jaish in India. She was the one, according to sources, who tapped into her social and professional network to raise funds under the guise of social welfare. She was an assistant professor at a government medical college in Kanpur, but she went missing from there in 2013 post her marriage. She divorced her husband 2 years later in 2025. My colleague Hina Gambhir has more on Lady Jaish, as she's now being called.
Let's now tell you a little bit about Dr. Shaheen. Now, she is Dr. Shaheen Shahid, a doctor from Lucknow who was working in Faridabad in Al-Falha University. She has been arrested as well by the police officials. In fact, what we have learned is that she was allegedly handpicked to lead Jaish-e-Mohammed's women brigade here in India. This is what we have learned from sources. Remember, Jaish-e-Mohammed, since Operation Sindoor, has been extremely active, has been trying to recruit women as well. And in India, we have learned that it was Dr. Shaheen who was given this particular task to actually lead recruitment process. She was tasked with radicalizing women for recruitment and create some kind of a network here in India. We have also learned that her handlers in Pakistan had asked her to establish Jamaat-ul-Momin. The focus, of course, was going to be on women joining this women brigade that Jaish-e-Mohammed was trying to create here in India. We have also learned that Masood Azhar's sister, Jaish-e-Mohammed's chief Masood Azhar, his sister Sadia Azhar actually handpicked Shaheen for this particular job in India. We've also learned that she was in contact with Jaish-e-Mohammed handlers across the border. She was getting information, directions from her handlers sitting in Pakistan, and she was working at their behest here in India. She also was driving radicalization efforts via social media and encrypted platforms so that, she and her network cannot really be identified.
Now, with the probe widening, agencies are now confronted with a dangerous new dimension to India's internal security: the growing radicalization amongst educated professionals who in turn indoctrinate their students and younger colleagues, sometimes with ghastly consequences. Come to think of it, the Faridabad module, headlined by doctors exclusively, had managed to amass a massive 2,900 kgs of explosives. The question is, how was that even possible? As we talk about that question, there is breaking news now coming in. This is what top sources are telling us. These are inside details that have come to us from the Home Minister's meeting that happened at the MHA at about 3 o'clock. The Home Minister, as we already know, has decided to hand over the investigation of the attack to the NIA. That is something that has already happened. But Mr. Shah has also instructed the Forensic Science Laboratory to match and investigate the sample specimens that have been collected from the blast spot and come up with details of the blast at the earliest. It has also been instructed to match the samples collected from the bodies in the car or body in the car that exploded. The NIA has been instructed to investigate and submit a report at the earliest. Priyank, you're joining us live on the broadcast with that set of information. Right now, the government of India slightly hesitant, I think, to call this a terror incident. They want to be 100% sure, which is why the FSL has been directed, Priyank, just correct me if I'm wrong, to fast-track proceedings. What will be the number one or number two things that will need to be fast-tracked before the government of India can actually step out and tell us whether this was a terror strike, whether this was something else?
Shreya, if you remember, Home Minister Amit Shah in the Parliament had already mentioned during the Operation Mahadev that over the night their aircraft flew away from Srinagar and it landed in Chandigarh, where the ballistic report was taken out, which could establish that whether the guns were the same which were used in the Pahalgam terror attack. A similar kind of thing is also being done so that forensic samples can be collected from the family members of the accused who was allegedly involved in this particular terror attack, with the body which has been there at the mortuary of LNJP hospital. There are two bodies which are still unidentified for the police official, for which the DNA sample can actually match that whether it was of Umar, the terrorist, the Dr. Umar from Pulwama or not. So for this, the Forensic Science Laboratory Lab has been instructed to come up with the samples report as soon as possible. And that will be the nail into the coffin which can actually establish that this was an act of terror attack, because everything was destroyed, no sharpness were found from the location. So it is very important for the officials to establish this as a terror attack. That can only happen once the DNA sample matches with the deceased body of Dr. Umar.
We'll leave it there for the moment, Priyank. Thank you very much for joining us. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is joining us on the broadcast, has served extensively in Kashmir. Yashwardhan Azad, former IPS officer, someone who's done extensive work in the intelligence sector, joining us on the broadcast as well. General Hasnain, help me understand why what we have seen in the last 24 hours and before that in the last 15 days, why it is so worrying, given the fact that out of the 8 people detained, at least 5 or arrested, at least 5 are doctors, 3 of them from Jammu and Kashmir.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me for your program. And yes, this is, first of all, the way you have outlined your 7 points, I've just gone through them. And given out your complete narrative, I must compliment you and your channel for having put a lot of dots together. It makes a lot of sense, no doubt. Having said that, there is no doubt that there was a time when people used to think that terrorism is the weapon of the poor, impoverished. A long time ago, I think we have overcome that definition. And it became quite clear, even during the time of ISIS, became quite clear that there were lots of well-to-do people, well-educated intellectuals from around the world, 40,000 of them who were drawn to the ISIS ranks through multimedia, all kinds of attractive, glitzy posters and things of that nature. And people were attracted and made to join the ISIS at that time voluntarily on their own. It somehow had a great appeal. A sense of violence had a great appeal. Now, this is exactly the thing. When networks are established, and all that you are seeing at the moment goes back to the various networks which exist in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly into the Kashmir Valley. There is no specific reason to actually point this towards doctors, but doctors are educated people. They can rationalize. Many of them are intellectual in their approach. They should, of course, they should be able to rationalize religion and faith, but you don't normally find that happening. Mostly in today's world, you find preachers being able to move people completely to different sets of emotions from time to time. So this is something which has been going on in the valley, radicalization, for quite some time. And our efforts, if I may say, our efforts on counter-terrorism have been superb in India. We have eliminated terrorists by the dozens and hundreds. I know that the strength of terrorists at one time was 4,500 or more in the valley, and now it's less than 100 out there. All this is very good achievements we have done. We have kept India safe for the last 15 to 20 years. But this issue of radicalism, it's not just an Indian challenge. It's a worldwide and international challenge. There are very few countries which have actually neutralized and overcome it. Singapore is one of those countries, for example.
Okay.
And the only way that you can actually do it is to bring in elements of the clergy themselves. If you have a moderate clergy who are identified and become part of the government machinery to reach out, help people understand, carry out interpretations correctly of the various messages from scriptures, you will find this, it can be done. But we are normally hesitant in doing this. And we have made lots of attempts, but somehow worldwide we have not succeeded.
Okay, Yashovardhan Azad, the fact is that Pahalgam happened. But when Pahalgam happened, it happened because of foreign terrorists. It happened because of Pakistani terrorists. Delhi, by the looks of it so far, with information that we've had in the last 24 hours or so, has been done by a doctor radicalized, by an Indian doctor radicalized here very much in India, because there is no document so far or no proof of him ever having traveled to Pakistan. We know where the roots are. We know that the roots are in Pakistan, but they have traveled via Srinagar. Now, I want to ask you this. The fact is that for the last 15 days, anti-terror raids were being conducted. The fact also is that accumulatively some 2,900 kilograms of explosives were found from various people who were detained and questioned and arrested in these anti-terror raids. Should we have sensed something coming? Is this an intelligence failure? I know, in security circles, people say, well, a terrorist has to get lucky just once, and security forces have to get lucky many times. But there are some questions we'll need to ask ourselves as well.
I wish you had asked this question to General Hasnain, because he had a very good reply to this, which he gave on another channel on which we are together. But let me say that Delhi was safe for the last 15 years. And this is one act. And during these years, there were 99% of the terrorist attempts at depredations which were thwarted by the intelligence agencies. And this one slipped through the cracks. Now, as to whether while the raids were going on, this could have been prevented, I don't know. I mean, it could have been prevented, but that it could not be prevented, cannot say that the intelligence has really failed, because every act of terrorism cannot be termed an intelligence failure. Rather, I would say that this unfortunate act, with which we have about 13 killings, very, very unfortunately, and about 26 injured, the kind of mass killings the the security agencies have saved us from. I mean, because if you see that module of 2,900 explosive, it was virtually ready. Walkie-talkie sets were there, the timers were there, everything was there. A little bit of oil and a little bit of RTX would have done it. And then you also get the information that the RSS headquarters was in their radar. There were other people on their radar. So it was a kind of a mass bombing and creating that terror in the minds of people, which was being planned. And like the Sarojini market and all that. So I would say that a huge disaster has been averted. Okay. Yes, we have suffered in the process. And mind you, let me thank that Thanedar of Jammu and Kashmir, who actually saw everything on the CCTV, ferreted it out, and then gave this hard intelligence. So that respect, I would say, yes, a crack through the slips, but a major disaster.
Okay. General Atta Hasnain, before I wrap this discussion up, can I just ask you very quickly, with whatever information we have, have with us, this is clearly pointing to a terror strike. Yet the government of India, the Home Minister, despite being asked the question, has not come out and outrightly called this a terror strike. Can I ask you, what is the hesitation, given the fact that there are details coming out on Dr. Shaheen, who had links with, Masood Azhar's sister, who had recruited her to indoctrinate young students and young women in India, etc. When all these links are already coming out, why is the government of India hesitant to call this a terror strike?
Firstly, I compliment the government of India, if I may say so. I compliment the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Home Minister of India for the level of maturity shown. This is exactly statesmanship. Now, I remind you of what happened in 26/11. 26/11, when those 10 men landed near Kolaba and spread out into the various targets, CCTV had caught people with weapons, with, carrying grenades and this and that and all kinds of things, and it was all out. Visuals were out in matter of minutes. Anyone could at that particular time have made out that this is a terror act. If I remember correctly, the first information which came to me changed within 10 minutes. The first information was that this is a gang war which is taking place in Mumbai. And then within 10 minutes, when all this evidence started coming out, they said, no, this is a terror act, obviously, right? Now, here, if you notice, while there are lots of dots which you have yourself joined, your channel has joined very correctly, there is nothing in black and white so far to which we can point out and say as evidence. And we had Yashowardhan Saab and myself were also in discussion with Neeraj Kumar Saab, who was being an ex-police commissioner in Delhi, and he himself was also of the opinion that so far in the investigation which has gone on, there is no evidence on record to say that this is a terrorist act. No doubt it will come. It is a terrorist act, we all understand. But let the facts emerge, let the evidence emerge. What is the hurry? It is almost similar to the question that a lot of journalists used to ask me in Kashmir. That why have you taken 3 days and your terrorists have still not been killed in the particular building? And I said, why can't I take 3 weeks? Why should I have to enter that building and clear it and get my men killed for it? It's the same thing. Here, let's have patience. The government of India knows what it is doing. You've got the top leadership which is mature and knows what it is doing. Let them do their job.
Okay. Can you just give me a minute here, because a lot of people are already talking about Operation Sindoor 2.0. Again, are they jumping the gun? If the government of India names Pakistan, if it is established as a terror strike, then will we be retaliating? Because the government of India's stand is clear. An act of terror is an act of war. We will have to retaliate. There are those questions that need to be answered as well. But there's some information coming in that I want to put out for our viewers. For the next minute or so, I just want to focus on the gap that could explain everything that happened yesterday. We are essentially going to break down the theories that put the spotlight on the 3 hours, 29-minute mystery before the blast takes place. The Fedayeen terrorist, possibly Dr. Umar, driving this I-10, was seen entering the parking lot of the Red Fort metro station at 3:19 p.m. There is CCTV footage, ladies and gentlemen, that is capturing him leaving the parking lot at 6:48 p.m. Question is, what did he do in those 209 minutes? Now, we are going to lay out the most plausible scenarios under probe, and this is coming via government agencies. Question is, was he just sitting in the parking lot for 3 hours and 29 minutes? Was he waiting for the right moment to strike? Possibly, was he waiting for the rush hour to begin? Was he speaking to his handlers sitting in the parking lot? And where are these handlers? Did he visit a nearby mosque? There's a mosque that is very close to the parking lot in the Red Fort area. Did Dr. Umar go to this mosque? We don't know. Or did he call other accomplices from this parking lot? Or was he simply coordinating with some other radical elements for last-minute Fedayeen attack planning? The truth behind those 209 minutes have become the focal point, ladies and gentlemen, of this entire investigation. Let me go straight across to Bhavtosh, who is joining us on the broadcast. Bhavtosh, yesterday, while all of you were reporting from the ground, one thing you had pointed out to were multiple CCTV areas all along the route where this I-20 had passed and finally where the blast takes place. Are probe agencies anywhere close to determining what Dr. Umar possibly did in those 209 minutes?
Well, what is very clear is that he was sitting in the car. He was waiting for some kind of instruction from someone, whether he was contemplating his second next move or whether he just realized that his time is up and he has to carry out something. Remember the turn of events that happened very quickly on Monday, something that was never expected. There were a series of events right from the time when the first set of seizure happened, when 360 odd kgs of explosive were seized, and then the big statement that was issued by J&K police in which they said that 2,500 kgs of explosives have been seized, taking up to 2,900 kgs of explosives being seized, and also the fact that they have said that 9 individuals have been arrested in this case. It clearly means that Dr. Umar knew that his associates have been arrested, his members of his module have been arrested, and then the CCTV footage that our colleagues have gathered clearly shows that while he had a free access to Delhi, but he also knew that he's completely being tailed and he would be choked at any moment of time. And the slow movement of the car also shows that it could be possible that he blew himself. Whether he did it intentionally, whether it all happened accidentally, is something that needs to be probed. It requires further probe. The NIA has just taken over the investigation at around 4 p.m. when the Gazette notification was issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs. But it is more or less clear that he was sitting in the car for nearly 3 hours, trying to get in touch with his handlers, trying to take some kind of instructions, or in the end, he just decided to go out and kill himself in a Fidine attack.
Bhaktosh, do stay on with us. General Hasnain, you know, the question is, and I've seen a lot of this commentary on social media, which is why I ask you this question. I hope you're not jumping the gun. But the question being asked is, why is the government of India not calling this a terror strike? And what is involved?
See, Shreya, my only response to your query will be the fact that the top leadership knows what it is doing. Right?
And why is the
policy which I would always tend to support.
Dr. Dr. Hasnain, would you also say that, you know, what we are seeing, the fact that there are 5 doctors who are under arrest for what is being called a Faridabad module, etc., is that a new dimension in India's security challenge? I ask you this question because right now, dimension in India's security challenge. I ask you this question because right now we are talking about 5 doctors. If you take the last 15 days, 6 doctors have been arrested in all. There's one from Goa, there's one from Hyderabad, and the rest we already know. The fact is, these are just 6. There could be 16, there could be 60, there could be indoctrinating young MBBS students across this country, and we don't know. This is just one group of doctors. There could be other professionals as well.
I tend to respect your opinion and your observation. There's no doubt that your observation is absolutely apt. But my experience tells me that this is not the only profession of intellectual content which gets involved in a thing like this. I've known lots of cases in Kashmir of people who are well endowed otherwise in society, who move in the highest of circles, who have been overground workers.
Correct.
Most of these people essentially are overground workers. The one which you are looking at, all these doctors, are not per se underground. They are all overground, and they are working for these various networks. This is a persistent thing which you will find in most terrorist-prone areas, that you'll find lots and lots of influential people who have been influenced by this kind of an ideology working in support of these organizations. So it is not something surprising, but yet it's an interesting observation that this current module that we are looking at seems to be primarily run by medical people.
Dr. General Hasnain, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. It's important to get your perspective on what is happening right now, what the government is saying, and more importantly, what the government is not saying right now. Thank you very much for joining us. There is some more breaking news coming in. This is coming via sources on the investigations that are currently underway. Sources are telling Times Now that the blast that took place yesterday was actually a panic attack. It was a panic attack by the suspect. The bomb was not fully prepared for the explosion. Therefore, neither a crater was formed or projectiles were used with the explosion to cause heavy damages and casualties. Bhavtosh, you're joining us on the broadcast. Since yesterday, one conjecture has been, was this even a terror strike, given the fact that if you look at the kind of injuries on people who have been admitted to hospital, there are no shrapnel injuries. There is no crater that has been formed on the road where the blast took place, and therefore the conjecture, was this really a terror strike or not? There is some explanation coming to that.
Well, as far as the government is concerned and security agencies and law enforcing agencies are concerned, the case has been registered, Shreya, under sections of UAPA, anti-terror law, under section 16 and 18, also under BNS, and the probe has been handed over to NIA. Now, what has happened is that scheduled offences have been used, including Explosives Act. So it means that the probe will be carried out by India's anti-terror federal probe agencies. And importantly, the probe has been taken away from the Delhi police, and the government is taking it very seriously. Now, in the past 14 years, that is between 2011 and 2025, there were 2 terror attacks that have taken place in Delhi. The question is whether the accused in this case, Dr. Umar, purposely blew himself or panicked and blew himself, but there has been casualties. There have been at least 9 to 10 deaths, including his own death, because body parts have been recovered. The investigation has started. No arrest has taken place as far as this case is concerned, but at least in the second case, the Faridabad, the explosives case, 8 to 9 individuals have been arrested, and both are linked to each other.
Okay, another piece of breaking news, and I think it ties up with what Bhavtosh is saying. Top intel sources are also telling Times Now that the bomber actually tried to relocate or dispose the explosives he had, this after the crackdown on the Faridabad module. Rishabh, then what is one to assume? That he failed in trying to dispose of these explosives, which is why he decided to just drive down Delhi's Red Fort and blow himself up? Is that the conjecture, Rishabh?
Well, what we're given to what we are given to understand that the intel sources are now telling Times Now that once this whole crackdown in Faridabad happened, about 3,000 kilos, 2,900 odd kilos of explosives were recovered and were taken into custody. There were nationwide crackdown in Jammu and Kashmir, in Haryana, in Delhi, and other places. After that, these bombers panicked, and whatever they had, either they were trying to dispose it or relocate it. And, there were no sharpeners there, there were no nails, which means that it was an incomplete IED. And while it was in progress, while the car was still moving, it blasted in front of Red Fort. The intel sources suggest that preliminary investigation, see, this is not a complete investigation that we are talking about. Preliminary investigation suggests that it was not a pre-planned attack, but definitely the cost at which this attack has come in is very high. We have lost 9 people, 20-odd people are right now in hospital, were severely injured, and we have seen how things have unfolded in front of Red Fort last evening.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. There's more news coming in, and this is coming from Jammu and Kashmir, where initial investigations in the state are putting the focus on a Maulvi. His name is Maulvi Irfan. He's a former medical staffer, paramedical staffer at the Government Medical College in Srinagar. He's also an ex-imam. He allegedly played a key role in radicalizing medical students there. In fact, all 3 suspects in this case are believed to have jaish-linked ideological ties, forming the core of the Faridabad Delhi module. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. There's more on the other side. Do stay with us.